I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon if I can.
I seek opportunity, not security. I want to take the calculated risk.
To dream and to build, to fail and to succeed.
I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the stale calm of utopia.
I will never cower before any master,
nor bend to any threat.
It is my heritage to stand erect, proud, unafraid, to think and act for myself.
To enjoy the benefit of my creations.
And to face the world boldly and say, "This I have done."
All this is what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Thomas Paine, Common Sense. Hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Everyone, friends, entrepreneurs on the interwebs. I'm Rachael Blaske.
And I'm Julie Ahern.
And today we're here with Grace Togun Olugbodi. And in this episode of You're Invited, the topic is going to be breaking into a new market. So Julie, VP and COO of Greenbrier Games, and myself, VP of Channel Marketing for White Wizard Games, will chat with Grace over a good cup of coffee, though it's 3:00 there, so I think she's having some hot water, and learn her insights and ideas about this topic that we feel is an important part of running a board game company, and all the while discussing your comments and questions in the live chat because you're invited.
This episode is sponsored by Arcane Wonders, with Hello Neighbor, the Secret Neighbor party game, now available in a special limited edition version at all Barnes & Noble locations, physical and online, and it contains 3 unique keys featuring replicas of the in-game items.
Awesome. And then we also, every week, would love it if you share our stream. We appreciate it so much because it helps us reach new friends, and I'm going to give you time right now to do it. All right, we've got some news coming your way too.
We do. So this is kind of more of a fun one. We the last couple weeks, my news has been doom and gloom, and I've decided that we're going to change things up. And today we're going to talk about some practical things that are happening in the news. So Clubhouse, the app, it's a thing. So it's
It is. It's a thing.
It's in beta testing, so it is still a small reach at the moment. But so, and on iOS phones only, not Android. But if you download the app, it behaves more like a live podcast. So if you're having an event, you can invite people, and they can either just listen or they can be added on as a guest and have a conversation. And while I have noticed that it has taken off in the not retail, but specifically
consumer based, like for marketing,
real estate.
Yeah.
You see a lot of real estate. You see a lot of businesses now using it for their meeting times because it's not, right now meeting in person is not the best thing. So having these small mini professional developments that are so popular in corporate America, using it for that purpose, I've seen it take off in those. The board game industry has started getting into it as well. So I've seen some and I've gotten to listen to and also meet a number of people from internationally, because it's not that just in the United States that it's being used in the board game industry in just the past week and a half that I've used it. So Clubhouse app.
I think that it's good for marketing for sure. And then, networking. And the other part that I really think is cool is the fact that, never mind, I lost it. There you go. gonna be those days.
Like a small amount of professional development, a good amount of getting a group together for quick conversations, meetings, networking, I think is a very beneficial side effect of it that is interesting. And so I'm interested to see how it does, whether it takes off or not.
There was a one on Shopify 101 that I learned about, and that does, that's something that we deal with too. So yes.
Very good. And then our other thing is that the Jack Vassal Memorial Fund is taking contributions because they are doing, instead of their auction that they do annually, they're doing an online one through BGG. So if I have not, or no one from the Jack Vassal Memorial Foundation has reached out to you to politely and lovingly request any donations so that we can do fundraising, then consider yourself invited to maybe reach out to me if you're interested in that. So just as a quick piece of information about that, what it is for people in the board game industry who are suffering from a loss, a sudden change of fortune, and need pretty quick, immediate, temporary help to get them back on their feet. And as I am somebody who's on the board, I get to read a lot of people in our community struggling, and the fact that we're able to help some of them is really satisfying. And so if anybody would consider donating, we would appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you are at all interested, feel free to email me after the show.
Awesome. And as always, you can click the 3 dots in the upper right hand corner, and that way you choose to be notified every time we go live. We also have a link to our YouTube account in the description box below, so you can subscribe there and view our archived shows after streaming. Yeah. All right, I'm excited. You're going to talk about who we have backstage.
Yes. So
let's get this worked out.
I met Grace mostly online. So this is the first time I've actually gotten to see her face, not even in person, but like at least get to see her and not just talk through a DM screen, which we've done quite a bit, I will say. So I met her because she reached out to a couple of different people in the board game community here in the United States, Chris Fry being one of them, wanting to know more about what the US market looks like, and who could she network with. And apparently a lot of them were like, well, have you met Julie? which was flattering, I won't lie. I really appreciated that. And part of it thrilled me though is because Grace is an educator in the UK, and she's a director and trustee at London University SU Board, the chair of governors, which is an Essex primary school, and is the founder at Easy Math Skills and BGenio. So her foundation in game design is in education, which is where I started. So I was totally thrilled to talk to her. And she's worked to license her game not only in the UK, but in other countries as well. And I'll let her talk more about that. But her planned distribution for Race to Infinities is quite impressive. So she's brilliant, and we are excited to have her here on the show.
Welcome, Grace.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Super psyched to have you here. So
thank you.
You're an educator, and how did working on game design come into the picture?
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and it's lovely to be chatting with you two on here. And yes, I met Julie first through Chris Fry, and then Rachael through Julie. So that's
yay, networking.
Great. Yes, networking online. I actually met Chris at a show in Nuremberg early last year. Yes. So I started. So I've actually been in the education industry about 20 years, and by trade, I'm actually a programmer. I'm a software programmer, so I'm actually not an educator by trade, but I am so passionate about helping children love mathematics more. And when I was younger, my father supported me in mathematics, and he made maths fun and creative for me. And after that summer, I went on to start winning maths prizes and all that. And so when I got to university, which you guys call college, I then started volunteering in schools through an organization who put an advert out, and they were looking for volunteers to help to go into schools and help children who were struggling with mathematics build their maths confidence through games. And so we did that for a little while, and the children started to, their maths confidence started to go up within like 6 weeks. And by the end of the year, they had actually raised their maths levels by 1, bar none. So then I thought, okay, I really ought to create a game. I ought to create a game that would help children to not only play in school, like we were playing it with them in school, but that they would take home, and something that I could put in some replayability, more replayability into, so that children could just continue to enjoy maths at home as well with their parents. That's how I got into gaming.
That's fantastic.
So how did you approach getting into this industry? Because I mean, that's obviously the next step there. So how did you approach getting into the industry, and what were the challenges that you had, and then also the successes?
Yeah, it was quite hard actually at the time. In the UK, the games industry wasn't that it wasn't that much. It wasn't that out there. Not like it is now, and obviously we're a much smaller market than you guys are in America. So, but I just couldn't find anyone to. I didn't know how to launch, how to get the game out. So, what I created a prototype since ages and ages before I actually launched it. Like took me years. I mean, the prototype itself didn't take long at all. It was a few days, but that was just on paper. Mm-hmm. That was just on paper, and then I had a series of different sort of periods where I'd get a designer to put what I've actually drawn on paper onto the computer and actually put colors in and all that, and then I'd look at it and I go, no, I want to change some other things and all that, and then after a few months back and forth, I would be like, I'm not actually sure. And then I'd drop it again and pick it up. I just didn't have anybody to sort of mentor me through or support me through. No one else suddenly was creating games or anything like that. So that was what was hardest for me, was not having the support around me. And it's like, well, no one in my generation had ever created a game or anything like that. So where else was I going to get support from? And then it was a maths game. And even anyone in the games industry that I met were not really wanting to do educational games because they didn't like maths. So I was kind of stuck for a while.
Yep. Well, okay, and that is the challenge, because having designed so many education games versus entertainment games, convincing people that a game that's education based can be fun, right? Right, can be fun. It's a tough sell.
Absolutely.
It is true.
Absolutely. It was a lot harder. I mean, I know people didn't believe that it wasn't impossible to actually create a maths game that would be fun at the same time, because they're like two different things entirely as far as people are concerned. And I'm like, no, we should be able to marry it together. Mm-hmm. And there were some games out there, and they were good. The games we were using in the schools were good. And this is 97, so this is like 24 years ago. Yeah. That I first started volunteering. So all that time, like a few years in that time, I'd seen that there were a few games, not many, but there were a few games that we were using in the schools, and they were actually good. It's just that I thought that they should be able to take the games home and go play it with their parents, and I didn't feel that they would want to do that if they didn't feel that they were, if it didn't have enough replayability or display value, as we always say. And so that's why I was pushing to just try and get a game that children would go play at home as well.
Well, and there's been a lot of people in our audience that have said things like, they like that we're doing this kind of show because they didn't have anybody to mentor them as they were going in, and it's nice that there is a way to do that now. So it's been really kind of cool that.
Absolutely, I wish this was around back then.
Right. We all wish it was around when we first started.
Right.
That is exactly the challenge. You are exactly right, because there was a lot of. And not to say that there weren't people who, when you reached out, weren't willing to talk, but there was no easy access. You had to go find. There was no network. It was much harder. It was more insulated in the islands of the companies that were working in the industry. And I will say, when I reached out, I can tell you, Stefan, who from Yellow, and Phil, who used to work for Golden Distribution and is now at First Night Games.
Mhm.
When I said, "Hey, can I have information?" It wasn't no. It was absolutely
Very helpful.
Here's what do you need? Where are you at? Here are some tips of what you need to do for this moment. Come back to me when you've digested that.
Yeah.
Open door. Let me know whenever. And that was great. But I had to find them. There was no like just net or network for it that there is. I think there is now. But
absolutely.
So you started and that was hard. So where did you go from there to where you are now?
Yeah, I think over the years I sort of felt bad. I kept feeling bad because I then, had my own 2 kids, helped them in maths and all that, and they became top in maths in their classes and all. But I was still very sad for all my friends' kids and other people that I knew that would always talk about this mathematical anxiety problem and how their children, had low confidence just because of maths, So I felt really bad that I put my projects on the shelf. And I strongly believe that my mission is to turn mathematics into a game that every child would love to play every time. And so I just simply didn't have peace of mind, even though I was working full time, later on ran a business with my husband, all very successful, but my mission wasn't being accomplished. So I just didn't have the peace, and I didn't have a choice, but I had to go launch the game. I had to just get it out there. Yeah. And every other obstacle there, you know how it is when you've made up your mind that you're going to do it regardless. There's a quote that says that the moment you decide, it's by Goethe. It's spelled Goethe. That's the name of the Goethe. Is that how it's pronounced? Goethe. Yeah. And he says that the moment this is not the exact words, but it's something like the moment you decide that you're going to do something, all manners of things start to connive. Mm-hmm. To give you what you need to achieve that, and I was so sure that I was going to do it because of the fact that I just didn't have that peace of mind. So one day in 2015, I remember saying to my husband that if it's going to kill me, I will get the board game out, and if it would be the last thing I do, I'll get the game out. And then 2016, I launched it. So, and then everything I needed just in between, surfaced somehow,
Glenn just said, throw your hat over the wall, which makes me laugh. So my analogy is, I grew up in Maine and it's very cold there. And that when my parents have a house on a lake, and just at some point you just run to the end of the dock and you jump. Mm-hmm. And in the midair, you go, oh no, this is a mistake. But then you're in the cold water and you're swimming because that's what you got to do. And that's mentally, what you were saying is exactly what I think of. You just, at some point, you're like, I know all the challenges, I know all the risks.
Exactly. And I was I know I'm going to fail.
Right.
Plus, I said to myself, I know it's going to fail, but I'm going to launch it regardless.
Right.
But it didn't fail. I was shocked. It didn't fail.
That's awesome.
Opposite of. So please because I kind of alluded to it, but can you give us some details about how successful this has been?
Yeah, so initially, I launched it through crowdfunding initially. I did it on Indiegogo because I was scared that it wouldn't fund on Kickstarter, so I didn't go to the Kickstarter. I used Indiegogo. Remember, I thought it was all going to fail. And then it funded on Indiegogo fine, and then I launched it in 2016, and then suddenly, I just started getting all this, people in the education industry saying it was great, even people in the games industry. Like, I don't know if you might not know Pete Burley, who created Take It Easy. He's been in the games industry for about 20 years. Actually, Pete, I met Pete. I met Chris Fry, who introduced me to you. I met Chris Fry through Pete Burley, and I showed it to Pete Burley, and he said, "Oh, well," he said it's amazing, And I said, really? And, then a few other organizations in the education industry, I started getting all this endorsements, awards and all that. And I'm like, really? Like, are you sure? So.
Good. Awesome.
And then 2 years ago, I was awarded like an honorary doctorate degree by my old university in recognition of helping children fall in love with mathematics. Again, it all started from the game. And I mean, all that sort of stuff. And then Amazon contacted me and they came up to me at the show and they said, we'd like to partner with you. We like what you're doing on there with your products. I mean, I only had one product, we like what you're doing on there with your products. We like the way you've done your listing, the way you're selling and all that. We want to partner with you and all that. And they started talking about buying wholesale, selling retail and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, wow, okay. So
that's amazing.
It's amazing. And then I was interviewed on the BBC again about this game.
So cool.
So that tells you. So when we talk about, but it's interesting because we talk about having in the end, entertainment wise, having that evergreen product and how that can carry your entire company and how elusive it is. But we don't think about it, how you can also do that in the education field. Also very hard tough nut to crack. But if you do, and you find that evergreen product, it becomes a massive entity. And so I think it's harder to do because there's a lot, and you came at it from a crowdfunding. So you didn't, that's to me fascinating because as somebody who published small amounts in education in the United States and going through the system of the education field and trying to go through the routes of like present to Houghton Mifflin and things like that, it's a tough audience. So if you can start navigate that, I am like, but also a testament to how good the game is and how it is engaging, because that is the one hard part that I find going through publishers and going through official channels of people selling it. They're, well, does it meet the
criteria, the standard criteria
of education at this moment, and will it be adjustable, and does it have all these things? And you're like, no, it's a game for engagement. The kids can have fun while they learn. And they're like, oh, we're not interested. You're like, cool.
Exactly, it's too educational.
Right.
Some of them said it's too educational.
It's works way too well.
Yeah.
Solid.
Oh my gosh.
Solid. So
you have basically the educational industry that's been really invested in this. And, coming from that side, you kind of entered through the toy industry, I guess it would be. Are you looking to break into the hobby industry? Like what does that look like when you're breaking into this new market?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because when I started out, so it was fast, sort of the toy industry, and then I realized that actually the education industry actually seemed to, they seem to be a little bit more like, oh wow, a game that makes maths fun, rather than the toy industry, who are like, because it's educational, it's kind of niche, I mean, it's probably a bit different now because, with COVID and all that, I bet toy industries, the big games companies in the toy industries, and we'll find out some at the shows, but, obviously they'll be looking to increase their educational games range. But before, it was really more like, okay, it's not the, mainstream hobby industry. So then I thought, I'm going to create some other games. And I wanted to have a little one that would sort of meet the hobby industry sort of criteria. I was a fun kind of thing, but not so educational. So, hidden a little bit more. Yeah, so I started working on creating other games, and, that took me ages, like 4 years or something. Anyway, finally managed to create them. Now I got to launch them.
Oh, wow.
So you have other games that you're...
So now I have 4 others. That's correct. And I'm gearing up to launch them.
Oh, wow. So are you going in, like, what's your plan for that launch then? Like, are you going to go back to crowdfunding? Are you going to use connections that you've already made?
Yeah, I'm going to use connections I've already made, because I think crowdfunding, it's important. On the other hand, if you've not prepared for it and you don't have if it's not really in your plan, then it could be like a distraction. So if you haven't got that 3 months that you put aside for it, then it could be like a distraction. So I don't think I'm going to do crowdfunding with any of them this time. I'm going to just launch them through my existing channels.
And are they still educational, or are they more focused on hobby gaming?
3 of them are educational, and one of them is my attempt to create a hobby game.
Awesome. Very interesting.
So then what have you done to so this is, firmly founded in the UK market, but you've broken into other industries as well. So what did you do to get into those, and what are you and are you going to do the same thing for these new games?
Yeah, I found that Amazon is quite good for literally sitting at your home where you are and getting into other countries. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of resources that you need, but you can, do it. So I did start selling in the US from as far back as 2018. However, I know that, to really break into the US, I really have to do a lot more than that. Just sitting here in the United Kingdom and trying to sell over there. So I don't consider that I've broken in yet. And I think that with the other ones, with this one, since now there's a line of them, I'm going to, attend some of the US shows this year to start trying to break into the US.
Maybe this year.
Yeah.
Maybe this year. Well, it depends.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you guys what's happening to the shows. I should ask you guys.
So I think people are still being cautious. That was actually, so in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about specifically Gen Con being a massive board game convention, which isn't necessarily, because we were talking about we were talking about Gamma trade show and the New York Toy Fair. You went to Nuremberg Toy Fair. So talking about how valuable it is to go to those, if you're doing board game industry, but industry almost adjacent, that those are more valuable than sometimes the entertainment game, while they can be for selling and everything. That those are the markets that you really should be looking at if you're looking at something like education or more toy based, or to broaden your spectrum of what you could potentially do. The challenge is small fish in a much bigger pond, so you have to make sure that you're doing something that actually is going to gain attention and get people to notice. But Gen Con being the biggest board game convention here in this hemisphere.
It's in Milwaukee, isn't it? Is it Milwaukee?
It's in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, right.
Where
I live.
Right here. Like 2 miles that way.
Okay.
But so right now it is still planning. They have not stated. They've said they're attempting to try. I will say, and this is for everybody listening as well, they did send out a survey asking attendees or past attendees and also past vendors if they were interested still in attending and how comfortable they would be in different situations, scenarios, like if they required, what requirements would make you feel safe or how safe they would make you. So if you're looking for that survey, I will post it to your invited page after this, and probably also my own personal page in case anybody didn't get it and would like to share their feels about it. Because they're at least cognizant of the fact that it may, I think they were more optimistic when when people were saying, oh, there's some, vaccinations will be done by then. And now it's looking like the timeline for when vaccinations are actually available to everybody basically coincides with like the general population getting them the same time that the show is supposed to start. So your first shot being not your second. So I think they're trying to be pragmatic about it. But I will also say that Indianapolis, for how safe it has been the entire country, but the city of Indianapolis has been incredibly, and I don't want to be sarcastic, but surprisingly regimented in everybody requiring masks. You get fines. There has, the police force has been out to give tickets if you are not wearing a mask. So it is very much reinforced here in the city. Wow. Things like that. So from going from that to seeing what Indianapolis has kind of been like, yay, woohoo, Indie PopCon's going on. Here's the concert schedule for Lucas Oil Stadium. All these shows are going to happen. And I'm like,
we'll see.
That doesn't sound... that sounds aggressively optimistic. Let's call it that. Aggressively optimistic.
Love it.
Oh my goodness.
So we'll see. So convention season, I don't think that this year, I don't think it's going to, but I have no insider information beyond the fact that I know that they're starting to really, I think they're trying to show the convention, the city itself, because I'm sure there's contracts and money involved and everything. They're trying to prove to the city that it is a disadvantage to try to do it now, that attendees will require a certain number of things that the convention center cannot provide.
What month is it supposed to be?
It's always August. At the end of August, beginning of September. That last weekend, or for the past couple of years at least. So that is the and of course, but you also have like Stephen Bonacore in the comments is talking about how he is saying yes, but yes, vaccination should be part of the equation, and that's my concern. Is I think I mean I know I live here. We have paid for a booth because it was postponed from last year. If it goes on, I will attend, but what I will be doing is like barricading myself into the booth and letting people walk by on the outskirts, having like a giant mask, and it's going to look like the apocalypse.
Well, yeah, Jeremy's like, there's just a wide spectrum of opinions. You can't really, speak for everybody, and not everybody.
Exactly, that's the thing.
Yes, right. But I did want to say that Megan is here in the comments also, and she was talking about how she has a third grader. She just went ahead and bought a copy of Race to Infinity so that it can work on her times tables and division, and she's loving the conversation. And I just have to tell Megan that I actually her third grader, I bought her Girl Scout cookies this week, and they just came, and I'm really enjoying them. Thank you. Go, girl.
Bless you, Megan. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Let me know if you need anything.
Yes, and they're asking, Gareth wants to know what ages your games are for.
So they're 6 to 13 plus. I know Gareth. Is that Gareth? Oh my God, Gareth! What are you doing on here, Gareth? Oh no, I shared it. Of course, I shared it. Okay, now I remember.
That's awesome. Well, and then when you say 6 to 13, that's a really wide range, and I have a lot of children that are within that range. And I'm curious, like, what do you have?
A lot of children that are within that range. Okay.
I do. I have 4 that are 9, 11, 11, and 13, and all of them are. There's a varied ability on the math spectrum for them, and but none of them really enjoy it. And so they could be really, really good at it. They could feel like they have zero confidence in it. Like my 13-year-old, she's like, Mom, I'm going to get all A's this year, but you know that I'm not good at math, so at least accept a C there. Okay. Right. And I was like, how can we do that? So how did you plan for that when you were designing a game that works with 6-year-olds all the way to 13, because it's a very different range of capabilities there.
Right.
Yes, you're right. It's a very different range of capabilities, but there are some things that are common to all of them. And in particular, when children get older, most children may have learned their timetables or not. There are 18-year-olds who are still struggling with the timetables. Not their fault. They probably didn't have that support either from school or from, they might not have that person who's confident around them to sort of help them get fluency. In the UK, and I believe in the US, it's the same with Common Core, because I have had a look at Common Core standards and all that. It's all about fluency with those main 4 operations. So elementary school in the USA and primary school in the UK, and even middle school in the USA, is building on the fluency that children have had or should have had in elementary school. Mm-hmm. So, and one of the core parts of Race Infinity is using, it's using higher dice values to work out what your options would be. So you are doing the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, but you are thinking about your options up front before you actually move. So you always have 4 options and sometimes 8 options of where to move. And in that, because they're motivated to want to win, you find that the children are thinking, okay, what's 7 times 8, 7 times 8? And they might not know it at that point in time, but somebody near them might tell them, oh, it's 56. Well, when they hear it next time within the same, within the same game, but maybe in different rounds or in different in different gameplays, they'll remember it or not,
So
and then next time they'll remember it, or
it's
next
providing
time.
organic repetition.
Right,
Yeah,
that's what it's doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, there are little times tables all over my house. Like I print them. I make sure they're in different colors, grids, like all these things, and I laminate them. There's like probably 10 of them all over my house because they lose them all the time. But I mean, for me, I'm like, I memorized all this stuff when I was a kid. Why? Why are you not memorizing these? So that would be a really cool way.
Here's the thing: you do memorize them, but then you memorize them for that quiz, and then so like we do. So I do not have children I'm not a mother. I am an aunt of many.
Wow.
And so that was always so we're sitting around waiting in the car, whatever, and I would do, okay, 2s are peanut butter, 3s are jelly. 1 peanut butter, jelly, 5 peanut butter and jelly. And they have to, so you're finding the multiples of 2s and 3s, and then we would do 3s and 4s, and then and that's like, it's something to keep their brain working, but also to keep them from like
feeling that they're doing traditional maths,
right, and things like that. But I also know that as a former teacher, that's something that I would think to do, but most parents would just be like, stop fighting, look out the window. I get it. Like, there's only so much time.
I feel called out right now. Wait a second.
Rest assured, we're not talking about you, Rachel.
Sure.
We're not calling you out.
Awesome. So, and the other thing is, like, as they get older, I'm trying to involve them in other pieces of adult life, like budgeting and things like that, to say, hey, look, you do use math. And then like in the kitchen, I'm like, hey, guess what? You need to know your fractions right now. And they're like, it's just,
guess what sort of maths they use? It's still back to basic maths at elementary school and middle school. So that, to do your fractions, you've got to know your times table. You just can't do the fractions without knowing your times tables,
and your algebra,
to do the decimals.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. To do your decimals, you need your times table. You need you need to know the basic ways to use those operations, and then you can apply them to real life of budgeting them or something. So a game just sort of detracts away from even the extra part of what they need to learn in budgeting. But hey, it's just a game, and everyone knows what a game is. It's a game, right? So they're playing the game, but they're having that repetition in there. And if they don't remember something, they can go check it online. They can have a timetable sheet with the timetable sheet and check it. Oh, what's 7 times 8, or or whatever number it is they're trying to remember, because they will remember it next time. And even if it's like you're going somewhere for the first time and you've got to use your Google Maps to get there. For crying out loud, how many times are you going to really need the Google Maps? By the 4th time, I'm about to get to your house, I know that the last one is a turning on the right, and then I'll see your house on the right hand side, sort of thing. So after a while, you'll remember some of it. Just
rerouting.
Exactly, rerouting.
Oh my God.
So it's by them doing it, and then they'll remember it. They'll just know it. And I think, Julie, you can probably be attest to that, because you're a teacher, so Yeah.
You just, how many different ways can you think about it? Yes. And Jeremy. That's Jeremy plays a lot of Haba games with his son, so that is some solid.
I like the idea of this.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah. I like the idea of this being very subtle to the kids. Be like, hey, we're gonna play a game, and they don't realize I'm actually working on your times tables.
Right.
Let's not even say anything about it, guys. Okay.
And then one other comment from Jeremy was, so this is here's a in case you're looking for potential ideas for the future. I happen to agree with this, that we spend a lot of time on trying to get kids engaged in math, so we never get to that next step. But the next step would be, why are we something that we need to apply for, because it's a massive deficit, I think, in in society that we don't prepare kids for how to plan for finances in general.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Personal
I
finance.
absolutely agree. Yeah,
And of course, Robert is saying, he's our sponsor that says Smartphone Inc. You can just start them playing that, and that explains it all.
Well, I mean, in truth, it is
It is.
economics
Yeah.
spaced game but not. It's pretty abstract. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that we're not throwing that in the classroom.
They'd be like,
Yeah, and
wait a
there's a
second, why am I not
difference between-
texting?
There's a difference between an online game and a board game. A board game just helps you be able to join in with your child, just like Jeremy was saying, and do it together. And it's not, the screen isn't distracting. It's just you, the game, and the people you're playing with.
There you go.
So you can really pass a lot of cues across that way and concentrate on what you're doing. And then, thinking about how you can win and what decisions. Actually, children don't know, but they actually have 8 options every time they roll the dice. But again, it's all hidden in there, so they don't realize. They just think, oh, I've got to decide whether to add, multiply, divide, or take away. And they kind of look at those options up front. Where would 12 times 2 land me? Where would 12 minus 2 land me? Would 12 plus 2 take me to capture Julie's piece and banish her to the odds lock or evens lock? That kind of thing. They think about that up front, then they move on basis of how much they have so far, how far they are from infinity, which is the spot at which they win. But then, because you can move backwards or forwards every time you roll the dice, there are actually 8 options. But they don't realize that.
Probability.
So they just, it's...
So then you start looking at probability.
Oh my goodness.
So, we have talked, and over the place. I have so many more questions, but I think we're going to wrap the show up. So, Grace, what is your top tip?
Right, I would say my top tip is really that you should always remember your why. And when Simon Sinek wrote his book and certainly did the TED Talk, it so resonated with me because I saw it after I'd launched the game and I thought, that is me. Because with all the obstacles that I had in trying to get it to, and trying to get that game out, literally a couple of years before then, there's literally no way I could have done it. And my mentor is the one who gave me the confidence to actually go and launch it. As I said, I didn't think that he was going to get anywhere, but I kept my why in my mind. And my why is that I just feel very sad when I see children who are struggling with maths or who have mathematical anxiety from mathematics. And I saw when I was volunteering in schools that too many children hate maths. They don't believe they can get good at it, and they find it a boring chore. And they also don't know how to relate mathematics to real life. And I was trying to solve that problem. And that is my why, because when I was younger, my father supported me and he made maths fun and creative for me. And from that time onwards, I went on to start winning maths prizes. And I couldn't believe it because before then I wasn't great at maths. I was just normal. And I could not believe that. But I found that when I got to university, I studied computing in the UK. I had a first class in computing, which is like, it's like, I don't know what you guys call it, cum laude or something. Anyway, it's the highest grade that you could have at university. And so I sort of went that line, computing with maths, did my master's in financial markets, became a programmer in investment banking for many years, and all that, all because my father took a little bit of time out to make maths fun and creative for me. And I thought it's travesty for children to be suffering just because of mathematics and having low confidence from it. And that's my why. That kept me through all the obstacles that I had when I was creating the game to be able to launch it.
So good. So inspiring. Oh my goodness. That's great. All right. Julie, do you have some fun stuff going on with you this week?
This week was all about finishing up the Lost Ones expansion. So we've wrapped up manufacturing. We're doing the proofs and looking at the proofs for the core game. The next step was the expansion. So that's what we're doing, which also means that the pledge manager is about to be open for it, and also the pledge manager for our refunds for folklore are going to, I think, both be going live in the next week and the week after. I'm not sure which order, but probably folklore first. So that's going to be exciting to have 3 pledge managers opening, because Bears is about to wrap up. And then we'll have folklore open for the window for 2 weeks because it's just for replacements. And then Lost Ones will be open. So that's my whole world for the next month.
That's a
Wow.
lot.
I know.
So
Three.
much fun.
Well, for this week, I have a couple fun things this weekend that I'm participating in. I'm doing a small games panel. It's the fourth of 5, and it talks about the unique bits of trying to fulfill and distribute small games and how they're different from the typical big box games. We're going to talk about things like case counts. When you have a big box, it's 4 to 6, but my tins were 80 in a case, and did that cause additional damages, things like that, things that may or may not be intuitive to a new publisher. So that's really great. And then also, so that I told my husband, like, tomorrow I have to work a little bit. It's 9 in the morning CST, and then 9 at night CST. So at 9 o'clock, which 10 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be killing monsters and adventuring into the Lost Village, which is...
And not at the bar fight?
Yes, we're not doing the bar fight. We are doing the Lost Village. And so that means I start with leveled up characters. So we're going to go into the Lost Village from Hero Realms to support the charity board gamers, givers and gamers. It's a marathon of gaming that he's doing for,
I
think,
Chris.
26 hours or something to that effect. It is going to be amazing, and I'm still on the fence of whether or not I'm going to dress up, because I really want to cosplay a rogue, because
You're gonna dress up.
It's going to be... I mean, like,
Rachael
I really
has said
want to, but, like, it'll be weird if I'm the only one. I don't know. Maybe I'll just do it anyway.
Do it.
I'll own it. I'll be a rogue tomorrow. All right. Well, yep, that's what's coming up, and that's on the Twitch, twitch.tv/charity board gamer. All of these links are in the description box down below to find me. And you can also, on the panel, you can click on the YouTube link and set it to remind you. So that's what's going on with me. And
Rachael,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that you could dress up, and then when you get there, so that you're the only one who's dressed up. If it's just you, just tell them you're going to get hot water or something, and then go and change and come back.
Surprise! I took off my entire black hood, and I just forgot it when I went to get my drink.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite. If I'm dressing up, I don't dress up often, but when I do, I do not care. So I was like,
you just own it.
I was a black kitty cat running a folklore game with nobody else dressed up, and I was like, don't care.
Yes, yes.
This is it.
I think Rachael and I are a bit more alike. Like, I would be very concerned if I ended up in the only one dressed
I
up.
know. I am pretty non-concerned most of the time. I'm like all for it. Oh, and then Susie is in our comments right now. She's gonna be on that with me, and she says I should dress up. So maybe she should dress up. Pick your class ahead of time and be all in with me, please.
2 of you. Oh, that's nice. That's
Also,
some support.
5. So,
Grace, where can we find you and your games?
Yeah, the games are on Amazon.com and also Amazon.uk. My website is immatskills.com. LinkedIn is pretty good for me if you just type in Grace Togun, Togun, or Grace Olugbodi. Either you can see it on my name there. And Instagram, Grace Olugbodi.
That is
okay,
fantastic.
and we've got those links in the description box as well. So
everyone,
next week we've got Lauren Nepomuceno coming. So she's going to talk about analyzing your business. She does that. So just something to whet your appetite for then.
Nice.
Amazing.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Grace, so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Really, really loved it, and wonderful audience you guys have had here, and very funny, a funny bunch as well.
That's true.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say that this awesome session was sponsored this week by XYZ Games Labs. So once you're done here, head over to their website, see all the cool things that they're doing as well.
You can also follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest. All the links are in the description box below.
Everyone, enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend, and remember, next week, you're invited.